Look at that. Water pressure is low. That'd be the discharge pressure on the condensate water pump. It's gonna be time to clean the screens. First I gotta go clean them screens out in the cooling towers. Those are probably the main culprit. Seems that whenever we get this transition in weather like this like black type of growth will creep up on me in the bottom of the towers down there in the water sump. Now I've been meaning to completely drain these, which I usually do a couple times a year, but I've been awfully busy lately with all sorts of other stuff, so I'm going to go ahead and at least wash the screen, because evidently that stuff is growing over the screens, causing me a little restriction there. Closing off the drain before I pull that screen out, because I can shut one drain at a time, no problem, and keep the system up and running. Kind of hard one-handed to do this. There we go. It is closed. Pressure is still low. There we go. So this screen is going to be loaded in there for sure. I don't want the chiller to stop. So the main thing I got to make sure now is that I keep the water flowing. There is a second pump. So I'm going to open up the T up here. It basically lets it go combine the chiller number 1 with chiller number 2 piping, and that way if I manually start the pump number 2, I could still cause it to flow through chiller number 1, which is what I have running. So I'm going to now close off the line to chiller number 2 that's not running. One thing I'm going to do is keep these fairly deadheaded a little bit, because see, if you have a restriction on an inlet to a pump and the pump's rated at so much capacity and the inlet, starving, you'll get it to cavitate and it won't want to pump and things like that. So if you butterfly off the discharge a little bit, which is what that is, basically put a lot of back pressure on the outlet. You're limiting how much water can go through that pump, even though it's running at the same speed. And that way, if you have a restricted inlet, it won't act up, cavitate or do all that weird stuff. So I'm going to kind of do the same thing to this one too. Here's where it normally is. Kind of hear it. You'll see the pressure goes way up. The pressure up, but the flow will be, is not all that great. So now I'm going to manually start the second one and hope everything goes okay. So my goal is to start the second one, turn off the first one, keep the water flowing. Turn off the main one. Hope that water flow. Oh shoot, I forgot to turn the chiller on manual. It's going. And it's actually flowing nicely, which hasn't been flowing like this for a while. Got the second pump running, going through chiller number 1, redirected. but I forgot to flip the switch, the manual switch on, and the chiller shut down when the EMS saw that I turned off the pump. So failed to keep the chiller running. Got to go turn that back on. Luckily that's a VFD one and doesn't cost a fortune to start up. This is pump number 2, which the EMS brings on with chiller number 2, which is not needed or running, but the screen must be good in it because the pressure looks pretty good. And my flow looks pretty good. Flow looks great outside actually at the tower, so I should only have to clean the one screen and then I'll switch it back over to the other one. Chiller should be starting up any minute. Now what you do is shut off the inlet to the one you're going to open. And open the drain. It helps to open the vent on the top of the pump, then the water will really flow out. Oh yeah. You see there's a lot of bolts that go around that plate, and this is how they remove that plate. But I brought in my extra impact wrench from home that I don't use, just so I can take that off in a zip. Got it opened up and now you can kind of see what's going on. Nasty. See, the one problem is outside, those the screen filters are quite porous, with these ones being fine. It usually comes right out. What's up with that? Nasty. Watch this. There it is. Think that might restrict some flow? I knew it was coming. That's all you really need to do, it just knocks it right off. That's all it needs. Stick it back in. Now I need to fill the pump up with water before we even open that up. And if you open that up too early, it'll cause the other pump to freak out. So there'll be a bunch of air. Let the water hose run into the pump, fill that up, so to get all the air out of the top. Okay, all the air was just purged out of here, as you can see. That's just water from the hose. I will connect this when I first start the pump so it can bleed out. Okay, I'm now going to turn pump number 1 back on. We definitely have pressure, almost 60. Turn this, open this up back to normal. Go shut down the pump 2 that I'm manually on. That's sounding healthy. That's definitely a lot higher than it was this morning. It was dropping below 20 for those screens. Right about there. Had no problems priming the pumps. Here. You can see its water flow is fine. Now I got all the valves put back where they belong. That way the system's ready to go. It could, if something happens to chiller number 1 or a pump associated with it, the EMS or somebody can connect to the EMS and switch over to chiller 2. Start up all the appropriate pumps and start up the chiller. Of course, the one thing that prevents that is if those screens get a lot of silt on them. If you stop one pump and start up the other one, like when the water moves, it'll just usually plugs up the other one, which means somebody's got to come in and open that up and clean them. So we're doing good now, though.